So we're going to Facebook again because Facebook is this wonderful, marvelous tool. It's a beast in a lot of other ways too. There are things I hate about Facebook, so I'm going to get that out front right away. And I try not to spend time on there mindlessly. But it is a fantastic research tool. It is a great marketing tool. All social media is. And through Facebook and other social media platforms, we have ways to get right in front of our perfect people after we figure out who they are and where they hang out. So I'm going to look at some of the categories that fit my perfect people. We're going to do some experimentation and try to find a couple of groups. So when you're thinking of groups, when we're going for groups, remember I said my people love Southern culture and they love the environment. In particular, my people love the national and state parks around the areas that I paint. So if I look at people who love the Savannah Wildlife Refuge, which is where I painted those rice fields, and people who love Southern culture, I can find a whole pile of groups really fast. And here's where we're going to do that. So I am trying to figure out how to do this without getting back into, I'm just going to do this way. Southern landscape and culture. And I'm going to do a search for that. And when I do a search for that on Facebook, it'll pull up posts, people, photos, videos, marketplace pages, places, groups, and all kinds of other stuff. We're looking for groups right now. So look for groups. When you click on that, you'll get a whole pile of different groups. And we want the big groups right now. We want the big pockets of people where our perfect people might be hiding. For whoever it was who was painting the animals and landscapes of the South, I think that was Malia. Southern Wildlife and Landscape might be your group. Let's see what that one is like. How many people they have. And we see how many people by going to members. They only have 72. That's not going to be a really big group. So having a group that's a little bit larger is going to give you more to pull from and a better chance of finding your perfect people. So you can scroll through and look for some that look likely, and you want to look for some big ones if at all possible. I'm going to put in Southern Landscape and Culture magazines. And see what comes up. I happen to know some of them. See what might be there. You see what comes up each time. Plantations, History and Culture. That's liable to be hoop skirts and stuff, and not, that's still not a really big one. I'm going to go to one I know. You can always go to Google and do and take what some of the first ones you find. There's Southern Cultures, Deep South Magazine, Oxford American, Garden and Gun, which is where I was going, and Okra Magazine. I haven't been to that one. That sounds like it could be interesting. Bitter Southerners, another one. So Garden and Gun is a magazine out of Charleston, and there's their page, but they've also got groups. Yeah, Shrimp and Grits. Yeah, and you can see how many people posted when you're scrolling to look at the activity. But when we go to Garden and Gun, oh, they're not going to have the groups listed there. It's going to come off of their page. When I go to their page, I can see the groups that they have associated with their page. That's their story. And I think if I go to about, here we go, here groups. Garden and Gun Kitchen Cabinet. That's not the only ones that they've got, but that is a group that's about food and people who love shrimp and grits and food. Those are liable to be my peeps too. They also have a couple of other groups that are good. Let's just go to their group, that group first. And this one has 2,000 members in there, not on the real big side, but there's going to be a lot in there that I can see. So one of the things I'm going to want to do is join that group. And it may be pending. A lot of groups are going to be closed where you have to ask to join them. And that's going to be one that I might want to go back to and check out later, get some inside scoop on. One of the things that Facebook will do is show you other potentially related groups in the sidebar, like the National Park fan page. That's a public group with 80,000 members in it. Remember I said I'll paint national parks a lot, so that's another one I might want to go join. And I agree to the rule. My favorite see if I can get in there fast. So that'll be pending. So I can find the groups that are related to that. And I want you to join about 5 of those. And this is homework. You're going to do this over time. I'm going to tell you how you find your perfect people in there, because I'm sneaky. My daughter calls us Mama Snoop a lot. So we're going to listen. When you join a group, you listen. You're going in there to do what they call social listening. And you can do some of that on pages. So you want to find about 5 pages and 5 groups that relate to those categories that we talked about. So if we go back to Garden and Gun's homepage, I can look at the comments on here. And I can begin to figure out where some other groups might be. So a lot of the people who are my perfect people love music that is connected to Southern culture. So I might want to join some of those groups. I want you to also find 5 groups. And here's what you do in there. 5 groups and 5 pages. You're looking for the other things that they love. You're looking for the things that they might be interested in. And once you've identified those pages, then you can go further with your snooping. Remember I said page insights is one of the tools that we're going to use. And when you go to page insights, you can figure out what other groups people belong to who love Garden and Gun. And you're not going to post your work in there right away. That's called spamming. And here's the reason why you don't do that. And it's where people mess up on this. I can always tell when somebody's taken a marketing class and they've gotten the advice, now go in groups that are around your target market and post. And they go in there and they spam a lot. You know, they basically plot links down to their Facebook page and try to get people to come over and like their page. That's not what I'm talking about doing. What I'm talking about doing is beginning conversations with individual people in those groups who are your perfect people who love the same things you do. That really we're going to save for Saturday, because that's the strategy that we're going to use to get people from these groups to become your buyers. So we're prospecting, we're looking for prospects, looking for potential clients on these pages and in these groups. So you're not going to plop your paintings down. You're going to start conversations. You might be able to appropriately post your paintings in some of those groups, but you got to hang out in there a lot first before you do that. So don't go in there and plop down a link to anything yet. We're going to just practice listening for the first day or so. So no posting links and stuff, just post good content and information. We're going to talk about what to do on that later. So don't worry about that yet. Now you just need to find them. You're going to need to find them for your homework. You're going for the going to find a big pocket that's going to hold your perfect people. So not everybody who reads Garden and Gun are going to be my perfect people, but there are an awful lot of them who are my perfect people. So I'm going to the big place to find my little pool. Some groups will let you join as a page, but see, you're not going in there to tell people buy my art. You're not going in there to sell your paintings directly. You're going in there to build a personal relationship with people. So you can do that personally. I think it becomes real obvious that you're marketing, and it can become a little bit off-putting if you go in as a business page into a lot of those groups. Some of those groups may not be appropriate. You'll be in there and realize, hey, these are not my people. They don't love what I do. They're not really my stuff. But you're not going to know that until you get in there and get to know them. So you want to build up personal relationships with them and become part of the community. So on a physical level, I'll give you an example. So I moved to Savannah, still have a house in Columbia. I'm in both places. And in order to meet some of my perfect people locally, I joined the Friends of the Savannah Wildlife Refuge. So I joined the nonprofit group that supports the wildlife refuge, the National Wildlife Refuge, because I know that I have perfect people in there. Now, it's also going to be people I enjoy hanging out with when we can actually go hang out again. But it's where I know perfect people are going to be. And I want to interact with them and build up one-to-one relationships so that they can introduce me to other people that potentially are my perfect people locally. So we're going to take our skills, our personal networking skills, and translate them online. So we're taking our personal networking skills, like when you move to a new city, you're going to go look for people who love the things you love. You're going to go join the art museum. You're going to go join the wildlife refuge support group. You're going to go join if you are painting dogs and love dogs, you're going to go join the local dog lovers group. So for me, I love horses. I love wildlife. I love the outdoor natural world. I love art. I'm going to go join all those groups when I move to a city. I have. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to do it online. So we're taking our personal networking skills. And here's where it's easier online. You don't have to make small talk. You can hide and lurk, and nobody's going to call you out. So if you're a total introvert, you get to be a total introvert while you're on in this space. So you'll be fine doing it. But I want to show you one more way that you can find some of those groups. And it's a reason to have, I'm going to pull up one more of those in just a second. It's a reason to have a Facebook business page. You're not going to get access to audience insights until you do. When you have a Facebook business page, you will get an ads manager. And in the ads manager, it's going to look a little different than mine because I've got the business manager. But ads manager will let you go in and get what they call audience insights. And you go to all tools, and then you go up here to analyze and report to audience insights. This is high level Snoop a lot. And we're going to everybody on Facebook because we're not snooping on our own people. We're looking for others. And then you go over here to, you see where it says interest? Then you're going to want to go to interests and maybe type in Algonquin National Park. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in garden and gun. Some of y'all have seen me do this before because I've used this example in my course. Okay, Garden and Gun magazine. They've got two. I want to make sure I get the right one. There we go. Okay. When I type that in there, here it is right here. Because Facebook gathers all of, this is what drives people crazy about Facebook, but it's what's fantastic for us when we're marketing online about Facebook. Now, they don't have your name in here, but they know what you love and like and where you've clicked like on different Facebook pages. So we're looking at the people who have liked or visited Garden and Gun's Facebook page. And it's almost 1 million people. It's between 700,000 and 800,000 people in the United States. And I can get demographic information here. I can look and see that it's almost evenly split between men and women. In a lot of ways on Facebook, that's Facebook's demographics, but that on Garden and Gun, it's mainly women. And the truth is, it's mainly women who buy art. Not entirely, but mainly women who buy art. I can see the demographic relationship status and the educational levels. I can also see what most of them have as the general job title. So I can get that demographic stuff. And that's all well and good, but here's where you get the secret sauce, is we're going to go to what other likes they have. What other kind of pages do they like? What other things do they love? This is where you can find where you might want to go for some other groups. It's not people who like my page. This is everybody on Facebook, and I've narrowed it down to people in the United States who are 18 to whatever age, both genders, who are interested in Garden and Gun. So let's go back again. I'm going to go backwards. So when I go log into Business Manager, log into your Ads Manager. This is why you have to have a Facebook business page, why I said you need that. Click on the hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. And then go down to where it says All Tools. Go over to Analyze and Report and down to Audience Insights. Audience Insights is where the gold is. When you go to Audience Insights, I don't want to know about people who already like my page. I'm going to find about, you can watch the video again later, Angie. You can have the recording. I'm going for people who like Garden and Gun. So I'm going just for people in the United States right now. There are subscribers from other countries too. 18 to whatever age, both genders. And then I want to type in Garden and Gun. Now, this only works for pages that have big audiences already. You can't, for example, target me. I don't have a big enough audience. You can't target last time I checked, you couldn't target like Plein Air magazine because they don't have, believe it or not, don't have a big enough audience. It's a little funky sometimes, but you can target the bigger pages. Then we're looking at the likes, the page likes of the people who follow Garden and Gun. So the top 10 categories of things that people who follow Garden and Gun are palmetto cheese. That's pimento cheese, a kind of pimento cheese. People, that audience shops at Fresh Market. They love to go to Biltmore Estates. They love their Lodge cast iron frying pan. I have to admit, I do. They shop at Williams and Sonoma. They love the Bitter Southerner. It's a Southern thing, and Saturday Down South, in addition to Garden and Gun. The personal blog they like to read is the Southern Lady Cooks. They shop at LL Bean. They read the Farmer's Almanac, and they love watching the Kentucky Derby. They like listening to Jimmy Buffett, and they love Chris Stapleton. So I can just now got the likes of my big pocket of people. I now know the things that they love. I know that they shop at Fresh Market because they love things that are more organic, things that are more natural. They like fresh food. I know that they love the outdoors. They love LL Bean. I know that they love traditional Southern sports because they love the Kentucky Derby. You know, they do Derby Day. Or in South Carolina, they go to the Cup. They listen to Jimmy Buffett. All of this is pretty accurate, and to a degree, it even describes myself. Then I know that they also follow these other pages down here. That's the page likes, and here are the top categories. So if you find one of those magazines that fits your perfect people, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about the size of the page there. If you're typing in, like, one of the best places to start is just looking for a magazine. Look for a magazine that targets the culture that you're after. You have a Facebook business account if you've got a Facebook business page. If you do, then you should have a Facebook ads manager. It won't be a business manager. I tell you, mine's a little bit different because I've been advertising with them longer. But you're going to have what they call an ads manager. And you'll find it in the sidebar on your personal profile. So if you go to home, I'm trying to get past all the stuff that comes up. So if you go to home and you click on some of these sidebar things where it says see more, you're going to get to, down at the bottom, it should show up in here somewhere, is ads manager. There it is. Now, that's where yours would be, is ads manager, in all likelihood. So that would be how you find that. Okay, so let's think about, I'm going to go use an example here. So we're going to look for magazines for Southwestern, I'm going to go even more narrow, New Mexico culture. And there's one put out by New Mexico Tourism, Southwest Contemporary. Contemporary in there. Is that a magazine or is that a museum? It looks like a museum. I was looking for magazines. That's the museum magazine. Maybe I made that too narrow. Let's say Southwestern. If you don't find enough, you can always back out to the next bigger category. Southwestern Magazine, Southwest Southern Living. Southern Living must have a separate magazine there. Not archaeology. Dorado. That sounds interesting. I'm just going to grab that one. I don't want to go to the art magazines. I'm looking mainly for, that's going to be a little weird. Not as good as I wanted. I picked one I don't know that much about. I'm just going to go Cowboys and Indians. Sunset Magazine. Good. I'll go with that one. Let's go here and see if we can find that in audience insight. So I'm going to erase Garden and Gun. And Sunset. Yep, there it is. Sunset Magazine. And here we go. So look at the top categories here. It's going to be national parks. They're telling you even the top bakery, traditional medicines, lemon tree dwelling. Oh, that's interesting. Thrive Market, REI, outdoor sporting goods, Blue Apron, Sprouts Market, Farmers Market. See how much natural food and organic food comes up in there. So that's probably going to be something that your perfect people are really interested in. And so what's the purpose? You're going to go follow those pages and you're going to find the groups that they have so you can hang out in them, because you're going to start some social listening. So let me show you your homework sheet and you'll see why I've got that on there. So there's your 5 Facebook groups and 5 Facebook pages. You're going to build your client empathy profile. And these are Dan Kennedy's big client questions, your avatar questions. You want to get inside their heads. What keeps them awake at night? What makes them have indigestion so that they can't sleep? What scares them so that they're staring up at the ceiling? You want to know their hopes, their fears, their loves, and their dreams. You want to know their feelings. And you're not going to know those unless you can talk to them. And if you already have some clients that fit the profile of being perfect, you can call them up and interview them. You can ask them some questions. I wouldn't ask them exactly like this. I'd ask them some other leading questions. But if you go in and do social listening in the groups around those categories, you're going to be able to answer these questions. So think about the fact they're shopping at markets that emphasize natural and organic foods. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of getting sick from eating the toxins and the stuff that's in mass-produced food. They are afraid of, what else? What else might go into the background there? What keeps them awake at night? Well, what keeps a lot of people awake at night right now is the fears we have just around the big situation that we have ourselves in. So think about where people are and how that might affect them. So people can't get outside. We have those big picture fears that everybody has right now. Can't get outside, can't wander freely. They can't get to their favorite places and spaces. So there's some serious limitations there. But then also get into the more normal fears and anxieties that people have. What keeps people awake at night really revolves around pretty much 3 things: wealth, health, and love. And all of them have to do with status. Look around the health, wealth, and status in general for your perfect people, because it manifests in different ways. So people worry about how they're perceived by other people. And status comes in by having what they perceive as marks them as being part of that culture. So people who love Southern landscape and love the Southern environment, and are interested in conservation, what are they afraid of? They're afraid that the waterways are going to be so polluted that all of the fish are going to die. And it really crops up after we have things like floods that we had 5 years ago. They worry about not having access to the things that they love because they're falling apart. What do they get angry about? They get angry about chemicals being dumped into the water. And again, this is totally apolitical, both parties, because the conservation groups appeal to all people who are concerned about place. They approach it from different strategic vantage points, but it includes a vast array of people. What are they angry about? They get angry about not being able to fish. One group not being able to catch the fish they caught when they were kids, not having water levels as high as that they were when they were a child, not having the water be as clear and fresh as it was when they were kids, not being able to drink the water out of the stream because it's got all kind of E. coli in it. You want to know what their hopes and fears are. You want to know what they love too. So what are their top 3 daily frustrations? Not having time or not having money. Those are things that the big general categories. Not having enough time to go walk through the woods. Not having enough time to go fish. Not having enough time to go hunt. Not having enough time to hike. Not having enough time to fill in the blank. Not having whatever it is. So what are their big frustrations? For a lot of people who are trying to redecorate their homes or to create that culture in their home, they don't know where to find the art that's going to fit with the style they love. That might be a frustration, but you're going to listen to what it is that drives them crazy. What is it that's making them nuts? What is it that holds them back, that makes them angry and frustrated? Then you want to look at the trends. What's going on in their lives? Going back to the mid-century modern part, that's a big trend. That's a huge big trend for a certain group. It's a huge big trend in particular for people in their 30s and 40s, late 40s now. The millennials and the Gen X are big into mid-century modern. They're retro. And knowing what that trend is going to be really helpful. So look for the trends that are going on in your perfect people's lives. And you can look at the trends by what kind of pages they like. So that's one reason to go in there and snoop in there. That's how I know so much about the people who buy my paintings, because I can go and actually look at the profiles of some of my clients and look at the things that they support. I'm not going to pull them up on Facebook and show you, but if you have somebody who's already a client and you're friends with them on Facebook, or they have a public profile, you can go and look and see what groups they belong to. So for example, I have one client, she buys a lot of art. She owns her own company, and she is very, very interested in the environment. She is interested in helping other cultures. She sits on boards for a lot of groups. And so I can look and see what kind of trends she's following. I can also see what pages she's liked and get some ideas from that. So you really do want to dig in as deep as you can into those 5 groups and those 5 pages, And then write down as much as you can that answers these. There are 10 questions. This is just the first page. The second one, what do they secretly, ardently desire the most? What do they want the most? And for a lot of mine, it's to be the barefoot kid again who's running through the fields. It's to be turned loose on a summer afternoon and to be able to hunt, go wander through the woods and not have to come home until you hear the dinner bell ring. It's nostalgia for the way the environment used to be. So you want to look at what they want and wish for the most, and look for if there's any built-in bias to the way they make decisions. And the example there is like engineers tend to be exceptionally analytical, and other people tend to make, some people make their decisions very intuitively. So like going back to Steed's group, when she's talking about the ones who are, she's talking about spiritual abstraction, abstract paintings that have a spiritual nature to them. And you're looking at people who love yoga, people who love the mindful boho, spiritual boho kind of culture. There's a built-in bias there. There's more of a tendency to be more intuitive and less analytical. So look for the biases there. Do they have their own language? Do they use words in a way that other people don't? Mindfulness would be one of them, because not every culture or group is going to use that term or that phrase. So think about the language that they use, because you want to weave some of that in. Do they have their own language? Do they have their own phrases? What are they? Do they use them? When they use them, what kind of context is it? What does it mean? So I can talk about Pluff Mud and Bless Your Heart, and my perfect people know what I'm talking about. That Pluff Mud stinks good, and that bless your heart is not a nice thing to say to somebody. So that is our own secret language code that other people may not necessarily understand. And you want to jot down those things because it helps you to talk about them. It's daunting if you let it be overwhelming. And if you think you're going to go down the rabbit hole and look for more than 5 of each, I'm going to be honest, you could look for 2 of each and you'd be fine. So if you can't find 5 of each right now, just find 2 or 3. You're going to find a lot. You're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions. You don't have to answer all of that while we're doing the boot camp. I just want you to know how to do it. You can work on this for the next little bit, but the more you can understand about your people now, the better off you're going to be. So it's an ongoing thing. You don't learn it all overnight, and you just keep adding layers onto it. So I know mine really well, both of my target markets, because I've been in business a long time. So I've been talking to people directly as well as online and snooping a lot. So don't feel like you have to know them inside and out right away. It's an ongoing process. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to think about 2 or 3, of each of those to start with. And remember that a Facebook business page is free. An Instagram business profile is free. You don't have to pay for any of that stuff. Don't boost yet. Boosting is an ad thing, and boosting doesn't let you target as much. Boosting your page is not the most efficient way to advertise. So I don't want y'all boosting. Don't do that. It can cost you a lot of money. And you don't have to go all the way down the road yet, but you do need to find 2 or 3 and see how much you can put down on that list of questions. You don't have to answer them all, but the more you know about what they love, what they like, what they hate, what they don't hate. You want to get into that emotional side of it. the easier it's going to be to find them and build relationships. And you want to join the groups so that you can talk to them and so that you can connect, and make sure it's something that you love so that you can go in there and do that personal networking. I've got some tricks for getting the conversations going. It makes it a whole lot easier. So you can get started with that research without having the business page set up. You can do, just like I did before, do the Google search for a magazine that deals with the culture around your people who love what you do. Then you can, we'll just do that again. So I pulled up, just typing in Southern Magazine, Southern Living Garden and Gun Magazine. There are plenty more that go on down, but I'm going to go to a different one this time. I'm going to go to Southern Living. And I can write that one down. I can write Garden and Gun down. I can follow them. Then I can also, if I want to find pages, click there. And I'm going to get a list of pages. Southern Writers Magazine might be a good one for me to look at. But certainly those first 4 are potentials. And on down to Bitter Southerner, which I'm familiar with. Southern Biker Magazine is probably not. Southern Outdoors Magazine, maybe. So there are a number of them right there. I can pull 5 and put them down on my list right now. Then, this is without even doing any more research there. I can go to groups. Now under groups, I'm going to do Southern Culture. I'll go over it, Michelle. When I go to groups, I can find all kind of groups that focus on Southern culture so that I can get in there and look for groups that might go along with things that have to do with outdoor Southern landscapes. So you want to find, go back to our handout. Your homework is these last pages here in the handout. I want you to find 5 Facebook groups that your niche people would be in. Remember, we went over those categories, the things that they would love. Where would they hang out? Where would be some groups they would hang out in? Then I want you to find 5 Facebook pages they might follow. And you can do that without having your Facebook page set up yet. Just showed you how you can search for them. So find those things, and if you only want to find 2 or 3, that's fine, because you're still going to be able to get some answers there. Now, after you find the 5 groups and the 5 pages, answer as many of these questions for the profile as you can. What are their hopes, their dreams, their fears, their loves, and their hates? You're trying to get insight into their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings. You want to go to it really is literally the last part of that. It's the last few pages there. And you can make notes here about what do they want. I just gave you a space to write down ideas and make some notes there. So when wrapping it up, I want to remind everybody we talked about the general overview of what we're going to be doing. We're talking about the niche today, our audience and perfect people today. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about how you'd create an offer around what they want and what they need. So that's why you're doing your empathy questions, your empathy profile. And don't worry if you don't get too detailed. Just get a couple of what we call nuggets. Get some little interesting things that you think they would like. What are some of their hopes and dreams? What are they afraid of? Don't feel like you have to go too deep into their psychology. My people love shrimp and grits. That gives me something to talk about because shrimp and grits is something that we have eaten down here for generations. You want to get those little nuggets. Doesn't have to be super big. One of the things you want to look at, and we're going to go back to number 10 so people can see that. Look at what they hate. Look at the things that are not effective. So I'll give you an example. People who love the southeastern coast hate timeshares. Why do they hate timeshares? Because timeshares don't give them a long time to be in that space. They can't create their own kind of interior around the timeshare because they're sharing it with other people. And have you ever had to be at one of those timeshare sales pitches? It's gross. Timeshares, they're trying to sell people on their own little part of the southern coast, but it's an experience that leaves you feeling like you need to go take a shower. So that would be an example of something that's kind of similar but failed. So what you're looking for are who else is trying to sell in that space and who's doing it well and who's doing it badly. So look at who's doing it really, really well and who's doing it really badly. Yeah, anything that makes people feel like they have to take a shower afterwards, bad example. So going back to the mindfulness space, the spiritual boho, there are people who set themselves up as gurus and con people out of their money with fake stuff. That would be an example, and I'm not going to name names, but there's some very famous people who've done some really sleazy stuff in that space. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to do. There are people who, I'm going to pick on Thomas Kincaid. He's not here, so I can't pick on him in person anymore. Thomas Kincaid appealed to people's sense of wanting a personal, comfortable landscape, a landscape that was warm and inviting and colorful. And what he did that was kind of creepy was that he made a make-believe world that doesn't really exist. And it becomes kind of a creepy space to me instead of a realistic space. So my perfect people don't like Thomas Kincaid, and they don't buy Thomas Kincaid because it's too kind of sugar-coated, and they don't like that. But they might buy a more something that's a little bit more authentic to Southern culture. You know, Thomas Kincaid went around and established all kinds of developments in the Southeast. So you want to look at people who are doing well and people who are not doing well. One of the reasons you want to see who's selling something similar, the whole point of number 9 and 10 is to look at where people are missing the mark. Look at where people are trying to do what you're doing and maybe not doing it as well. Don't worry about it if you can't figure 9 and 10 out yet, because we'll find some examples of that and we'll nail some more of that down tomorrow. And sleep well. Skim through your homework. Don't stress about it. Remember, you don't have to have all the answers yet. This is your first rough draft. And I'll see you tomorrow.